We are on Kilimanjaro Safaris at Animal Kingdom.
So it is not a word that means thank you in Swahili, and here in Harambe we also say twende, which means let's go. Jambo everybody, my name is Josie. I will be your safari guide as we venture through the Harambe Wildlife Reserve. And as we are heading out, there are some things we do have to go over for your safety. Please make sure you remain fully seated, keeping your hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the truck at all times. If you have a little one sitting with you, I recommend, again, they're in your laps or on the edge of those rows. But if they're sitting in your lap, again, they just need to be fully seated in the lap they are currently sitting in throughout our entire journey today. Now, safety reminders are very, very important because they can get very, very bumpy out here on the reserve. And of course, we can't have a really fun safari unless we're also having a really safe safari. But also, with all this in mind, make sure you're holding on to any belongings tightly. If you do happen to drop something off the side of the truck, we can't stop to retrieve it at that moment, but make sure you let me know right away so we can do our very best to get it back to you guys. But we are just hanging out here until we get that final all clear from the warden, which it looks like we've got. So we are good to get this show on the road, and our first stop here is going to be the Little Ituri Forest. And the forest is home to some pretty shy and reclusive animals. They tend to be really good at hiding as they are all amazing camouflagers, and that's going to be their main defense mechanism from predators. Now, the first thing I see up here on your left-hand side, there's a couple different antelopes up here. The more copper-coat antelopes are the bongos, and the lighter gray-coat antelopes are the greater kudu. Now, these are all females that you're seeing up here, but you're going to notice that one of them has horns and one of them doesn't. Both male and female bongos are going to have horns, whereas only the male greater kudu are going to have horns. Well, they both got that striped pattern on their backs, so it's going to help them to camouflage with the sunlight coming in through the trees.
Pretty.
And also over on your right-hand side there, that is an okapi. Many people assume that the okapi are related to zebras because of their beautiful black and white striped legs, but they are actually the only known relative of the giraffe. And we know that because of the shapes of their skulls and their really long prehensile tongues. And prehensile is just a very fancy scientific word that means finger-like. So they're able to use their tongues as an appendage to grasp and pull leaves off the trees here in the forest. A great example of a really reclusive animal. They weren't discovered by Western scientists until the year 1901. Prior to that, they were believed to be mythical creatures named the African unicorn. And here on your left-hand side, this is the black rhinoceros. And the black rhino is actually the smaller of the two species that live here on the reserve, but they still get to about 3,000 pounds, if that could ever be considered to be small. And you're seeing that triangular shaped top lip, that is also that prehensile that we were just talking about. So again, super muscular and gonna help them to eat here in the forest. But the black rhinos are unfortunately critically endangered. Though they have no natural predators, their main threat is from humans. They've been heavily poached for those horns on their head, which are made of keratin. And keratin was once believed to have medicinal properties, but we now know that that is not true at all. And we actually have keratin in their own hair and fingernails. So definitely not as valuable as we once thought it was. Also up towards the top of the hill here on your left-hand side, those very large black and white birds are the saddle-billed storks. They get their name from the saddle shape on their bill, and they'll stand up to about 5 feet tall with wingspans of about 9 feet in length. But we are now making our way over towards the Sapi River Valley, and the Sapi River does run through the forest, so we are still going to notice lots of trees and greenery throughout here. And it's going to be home to some aquatic animals, but also some land animals that like to hang out in and around the water. So we're going to keep our eyes out on the banks and also down below the surface of the water. Now over here on your right-hand side, you're going to see a pod of pink-backed pelicans. Also, if you look real closely in the corner there's a couple of Nile hippopotamus. I'm hoping that there are a couple more up ahead of us that are a little bit easier to spot than those two all the way back there. But you're going to get a great view of these pink-backed pelicans here, and that pink coloration in their name becomes more vibrant during their mating season. And they've also got about a 7 to 9 foot wingspan, just like those saddle-billed storks we saw back in the forest. Now that's especially impressive when you know that they're one of the smaller pelican species. And there we go, there's a couple more hippos over on your left-hand side, a little bit of a better view there. But hippos do spend the majority of their life underneath the surface of the water. They're able to hold their breath for about 8 minutes before they come up for air. But they don't actually swim. Their main form of movement is going to be walking or running along the bottoms of these pools, because they're pretty dense. They weigh upwards of about 5,000 pounds, so it uses a lot less energy to just sink down to the bottom and walk rather than try and swim. But hippos are herbivores, meaning they only eat grasses and plants. But despite this, they've got pretty large teeth. Their incisors can grow to be about 18 inches long. They're mainly just used for defense, though. And they only eat about 80 to 90 pounds of food a day, which of course sounds like a lot, but when you consider just how much they weigh, it means they don't really have the largest appetites. But down below us here on the left-hand side are some animals with much, much larger appetites. These are the Nile crocodiles, so we're going to go nice and slowly over this bridge here.
One right there in the water, one on the land. Oh, one right down there.
The Nile crocodiles are the largest crocodilian species in Africa. They can grow to be about 16 feet long, weighing about 500 pounds. Ooh. And you probably noticed they were all staying pretty still down there. It's how they conserve their energy, and that allows them to go roughly about a week without eating. And that works up a pretty large appetite, as you could imagine. So much so that in a single sitting, they'll consume about half their body's weight worth of food.
Oh,
and
wow.
they weigh about 500 pounds, so pretty impressive. But as we head around this curve, you're going to notice lots of trees and greenery starting to thin out, and that's because we're heading down into the savanna. And on your right-hand side here, we're passing by a baobab tree. Another great sign that we're entering the savanna. And you've probably heard the baobab tree referred to as the tree of life. That is a pretty famous nickname it was given due to its incredible ability to hold thousands of gallons of water. And it does that by remaining leafless for about 9 months of the year. And that is going to make it a great water source for all the animals out here on the savanna to tap into, especially during their frequent drought periods. But the savanna here is also known as the grasslands, and it's going to be home to some of our most famous animals on the reserve, like giraffes, elephants, and lions. So we will do our best to see what we can get our eyes on out here. Now you're probably already able to see a couple of Maasai giraffes now. Hopefully we'll get a little bit closer to them here in just a few minutes, but there's a ton of them hanging out here. And again, these are all Maasai giraffes, and they can grow to about 18 to 20 feet tall, making them the tallest land animals in the world. And they typically eat for about 16 to 20 hours a day, so that's probably what you'll see most of them doing now. And along with travel time, that leaves just about 30 minutes for sleep every day, and they do that in 5-minute intervals throughout the day. So just rely on little power naps. But you're normally going to see them doing most, if not all, of their daily activities standing up, including sleeping, because that is the least vulnerable position for them. So I'm going to lay down if they're really, really tired, or if they're in an area where they're comfortable to do so, like on a protected reserve like this one. But hanging out in their den on the left-hand side here, these are the African painted dogs. And they've all got their own spot pattern. That's going to help them to identify each other out in the wild, even from long distances. And I know they are super cute looking, but please don't underestimate them, because they're also Africa's most successful hunters. They're going to hunt as a pack, so in sort of a tag team effort, they will take turns chasing down their prey until their prey is exhausted.
Wow.
Now if you look towards the tree line just ahead of us here on the left-hand side, you'll see the sable antelope. And they are the official emblem of the Harambe Wildlife Reserve. And they were chosen because they're known to be fighters out in nature. Unlike many other antelope species, which tend to be a little bit more skittish when it comes to predators, they're actually known to hold their ground and fight back. And they're going to use those razor-sharp horns on their head as their main defense mechanism. But here is going to be a much better view of a couple of giraffes here on your right-hand side. Now, a pretty amazing thing about them is they actually have the exact same number of vertebrae in their necks as we have in ours. 7 just like us. Theirs are obviously just much, much larger than ours. And again, they have those really long prehensile tongues, just like we were talking about with the okapi back in the forest, helping them to reach the leaves off the trees. And a group of giraffes is called a tower unless they're traveling or migrating, then we refer to them as a journey. Now, it looks like one of them is slightly in the road up ahead of us here.
Oh yeah, there's one on the road, and there's some wildebeest running this way.
But it looks like there are several more animals in the field up ahead of us here as well. Probably seeing some wildebeest up there. And out of the wild, the wildebeest actually travel in groups of up to 1.5 million individuals while they make their great migration. They actually travel anywhere from about 500 to 1,000 miles. So wildebeest really rely on strength in numbers, and a lot of the other animals out here also rely on speed and agility to help evade predators. Whereas back in the forest, we talked about how a lot of them use camouflage. But once we can move forward here, we'll probably get a little bit of a better view of them. And also, if you can see way towards the top of the hill there as well, those beautiful, like, s'more colored animals up there are the springbok. They really rely on speed and agility. They're among the fastest animals in the world. They can reach speeds of about 55 miles an hour, which is just shy of a cheetah. But I get that name springbok because they can spring about 6 feet straight into the air and also leap about 13 feet forward.
True.
So they could actually jump right through the safari truck if they really wanted to. And we always stress that this is these animals' homes, so they can walk wherever they want to, so sometimes they do get in the right path like this. But you can see our amazing animal programs team over here. She's doing her best to get this giraffe out of the road here. And you can see that she used a little bit of food to get this giraffe out of the road. So they've gotten very, very intelligent, and they learn that if they stand in the road, they usually get a treat or two. So they do this a lot. They're really, really smart.
That's kind of funny. I'm just gonna wait for food.
Now, you're gonna see something else really cool here. So there's another antelope species on the left-hand side of the road. This is an eland, and what he's doing right now is
blocking the path.
So elands make little flower crowns on their horns. We're not really 100% sure why they do this. Usually they do it with bushes, but he's got a pretty big ego, so he likes to use like the largest logs ever to do this. So that's what he's doing right now. We're not really 100% sure why they do it. It's believed that they do it to help attract mates. But now there's a huge branch in the road.
He's just like, hey, what's up? I'm just gonna walk away. Just gonna walk away now. Just leave the branch.
The eland was playing with that tree the giraffes knocked over earlier. It looks like he just threw it onto the road over by Willow Bush.
He's like, where's my treat?
Yeah, it looks like AP's coming over. Hopefully they'll drag it off for us.
Reserve from 13, yeah, I'm the truck holding for the branch.
She's like, you stay there. You don't come over here.
It's at 4 by 2 back on the move. Alrighty.
Oh.
Thank you guys for being patient here.
Unless that giraffe comes out. No, he's slowing down.
Alrighty. They're gonna get a much better view of these wildebeest and the springbok up ahead of us here. There's also some of the Hartmann's mountain zebras hanging out on your right-hand side, and the rest of the family's hanging out just ahead of us here. And these are Hartmann's mountain zebras, and they're the only zebra species to have what is called a dewlap on their necks. And it's just a little extra piece of skin that's going to aid in blood flow, and that will help them to keep cool and regulate their own body temperatures. And a group of zebras is called a dazzle. Again, this is the whole family hanging out here. There's 2 moms, 2 babies, and their dad. And every single zebra has its own individual set of stripes, just like a human fingerprint, but those babies are really intelligent, and they actually have the ability to imprint on their mothers at birth, which very simply means that they can memorize their mom's stripe pattern in order to pick her out from the herd. And they can do that within the first 15 to 30 minutes of life, so they're very, very smart. Now, these falling down trees here are actually a great sign that we're heading over into elephant territory here. Elephants are known as the bulldozers of the savannah, and there he is on your right-hand side. Now, this is an African elephant, and a great way to tell that is by taking a look at the shape of his ears. They do very closely resemble the shape of the continent of Africa. Pretty convenient way to be able to tell them apart. But they flap those ears against their body because there are a lot of blood vessels in their ears. So you can bring their body temperatures down about 15 degrees just by doing that. And that's actually a male mandrill that you just saw disappear behind the rocks there. He likes to walk in circles there. But males are the largest and brightest monkey species, and he's a lot larger than the females. Males up to about 100 pounds, and the females are usually only between 40 to 50 pounds. But he's also a lot brighter than the females, and his coloration is known to get brighter as he gets more excited. I'm assuming it was a young male elephant that we saw. They tend to be a little bit more solitary and territorial than the females. So if you see one hanging out by itself, you can usually assume it's a male. Those larger herds are going to be made up of females and their offspring, and they'll be led by a matriarch. She's going to be the oldest and wisest female of the group. And she will start kicking those males out around the age of 15, and then they'll live on their own or loose bachelor herds for the rest of their lives. Adult male elephant could weigh up to about 13,000 pounds, which means they can eat a whole lot, usually about 300 pounds of vegetation in a single day. But elephants are also herbivores, meaning their diet mainly consists of fiber. So as we are passing through these red clay pits here, you might notice lots of tusk marks all along them. The elephants are known to come over here and sort of snack on this stuff because it serves as a multivitamin for them. So they're going to use their tusks to dig in there and try and loosen some of it up. Again, we'll just add some extra nutrients to their diets. And it looks like there might be a couple more elephants just ahead of us here. But unfortunately, elephant populations are really suffering right now due to habitat loss. That is primarily due to improper mining practices for a mineral called coltan. And you're probably all carrying coltan on you right now. It can be found in all of these smaller electronic devices that we use every single day, like our cell phones, laptops, or tablets. But the amazing about coltan is that it can be recycled and reused in new devices. So a very simple way that we can help out these elephants is just to make sure that we are recycling those devices properly once we get new ones. That way this mining isn't necessary anymore and we can just reuse what we already have. Now, elephants' trunks are incredibly muscular. They actually have more muscles in their trunks alone than we have in our entire bodies. So that's why they can use them for a variety of purposes like eating and drinking. Now in this next watering hole, these are the greater flamingos. Now the greater in front of their name does not mean that they are better than any other species, just larger than. And they've also got the lightest shade of pink feathers in the flamingos.
And a bunch of ducks.
And that iconic pink coloration is going to come from their diets. They eat a lot of brine shrimp, which is rich in beta-carotene, and that is a protein that's going to give them that coloration. But babies are actually going to be born with gray feathers, so if you're able to spot any that have grayish heads and necks, those are just the younger ones of the group. And a group of flamingos has a pretty fun name. They're called a flamboyance. So there's a flamboyance of flamingos. And we are still traveling through the savannah here in one of our largest ecosystems.
Ooh.
And up next here, these are the white rhinos. Now, they're going to be a little bit larger than the black rhino we saw back in the forest. They're up to about 5,000 pounds. And their name was actually a mistranslation from the Afrikaans word "vite," which means wide and not white. And that's in reference to the shapes of their mouths, which are more of a square and wide shape. And that's going to help them to graze out here in the savannah. And they've also got some cone-shaped ears on their head, which give them pretty impeccable hearing. And you're probably noticing them turning those ears inwards and outwards. That helps them to pinpoint where every single sound is coming from. They're very nearsighted, so they rely pretty heavily on their hearing. And also, hanging out up here on your left-hand side are some cheetahs.
Ooh.
And cheetahs are the fastest land animals. They can go from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 3 seconds, but they can only maintain that speed for just a few hundred yards before they have to slow back down again. But they're not just masters of speed, they're also masters of camouflage. Cheetahs camouflage pretty well, especially during the day, which is why they're one of the only cat species that does hunt during the day. And that is also why they've got those black teardrop marks going underneath their eyes. Those are going to help absorb sunlight and protect their eyes from the glare of the sun, just like you might see an athlete wear an eye black.
Deer
See a
carcass.
couple more up there through the trees on your left.
Yep, lion.
Cheetahs actually communicate with each other through a series of chirps, purrs, and meows, so they don't have the ability to roar. which is why they're not considered to be big cats. Being able to roar is kind of the main qualifying factor. And this rock formation, though, that we're approaching here is called a Kobe Rock, and it does provide a home for a much larger nocturnal cat species, the lions. Now, lions are becoming a bit of a rarer sight to come upon. Unfortunately, in just the last 25 years, we've lost over half the lion population. They're facing a lot of competition for their natural resources. But the Disney Conservation Fund started a project called Protect the Pride, trying to bring those numbers back up. And you and I can both be part of this, and you can donate at any merchandise location in all of Animal Kingdom. And Disney will match the donation dollar for dollar, penny for penny.
Oh, hello. No, this is fine. There's an ostrich.
We're not going to catch a break today, it seems like.
Oh, we're all just gonna cross. They're super close right there. Just drinking some water.
Now we're going to give them a minute here to see if they want to make their way out of the road. If not, hopefully our animal programs team will be here shortly to help us out. Now, these rhinos are my personal favorite animals out here on the reserve, so I don't mind this at all. And these specifically are southern red rhinos. Now, there is another species in Africa, the northern red rhinos, that have unfortunately been labeled as functionally extinct. There's only two left, and it's a mom and a daughter. So it's a pretty sad story, but it opened the window for a lot of conservation to happen for rhinos all around the world, and they experienced a lot of success, so much so that these southern red rhinos were actually just taken off the critically endangered species list, which is very, very exciting. But it looks like they've made their way out of the road here, and I am seeing the lions up ahead of us here as well. So we're going to get a little bit of a better view of them here.
A couple lions, male and a female, at least.
Now, lions being nocturnal means they're going to sleep and rest about 16 to 20 hours a day, conserving their energy, and then at night, the females are actually the ones who go out and do all the hunting, and the males are responsible for staying at home to watch over the territory and protect the pride. If you've ever been lucky enough to hear it, a lion's roar can be heard for up to 5 miles. So that is how they communicate with each other. Also how they let everybody know whose territory they're walking on. Oh my gosh, guys.
Ostrich. He's moving.
Now, if you look up in the corner on your left-hand side as well, you'll see some warthogs up there. Warthogs are burrowing animals, as you can see, in their homes. And they're actually the largest burrowing animals in the world. And they will dig their own burrows, but they're more known to reuse and repurpose older abandoned burrows. So super resourceful and intelligent animals. And this ostrich here is a female, because she's got gray feathers, whereas the male is going to have black and white. And despite having their really large wings, they don't fly, but they're going to use those wings to help steer and maneuver themselves, because they can reach speeds of about 40 miles an hour. Now, those warthogs that we saw are also highly adaptive, and they're one of the only animals on the reserve that are not endangered. Something to celebrate there. And down there on your right-hand side is a little cluster of ostrich eggs. On the right side of that was a female that we saw. And those are the largest bird eggs, which makes sense because the ostrich is the largest flightless bird species. Because you stand on top of one of those eggs without cracking them, they're moving in at about 3 pounds each, and that's equivalent to about 2 dozen chicken eggs.
Wow.
And with that being said, our last stop here is the Magadi Glen, and we're moving towards civilization and away from the wildlife out there. But here's a great example as to how humans and animals can coexist and live in harmony. At the Warden's Post, there's a group of Nigerian dwarf goats. And they're pretty amazing animals. Besides being adorable, they also make great natural lawnmowers. And they produce a lot of milk that the Warden can use to make cheese products, so then they can sell goat milk and goat cheese in a local village. And it's a lot more environmentally friendly to get these products from them rather than cows. But they're also playful animals. They love to run and jump, climb, and headbutt. And the most dominant male of the group is established by which one is the most playful. But the Warden's Post does lie on the edge of the reserve, so sadly our safari is going to be coming to an end here as we are approaching the outskirts of the village. But I know we've seen some pretty amazing animals out there today, and I do hope you guys would agree with that. But they sure are a lot of animals that we don't get to see every single day, so some of them might seem pretty intimidating. But it is important to keep in mind that the biggest threat to every animal we saw is unfortunately us as humans. But that's definitely not all bad news, because we all have the opportunity and the power to help out those animals as well. And I agree that we can do that is by remembering to reduce, reuse, and recycle. And that old saying can go a really long way and be a big step towards saving our planet and these animals' homes. And you can do very simple things every day, like turning off the faucet while you brush your teeth to reduce the amount of water that you use. You can also buy reusable products like reusable water bottles. We also mentioned recycling your electronic devices, but also just recycling right every single day. And we mentioned the Disney Conservation Fund. And because we are here at Disney's Animal Kingdom, we always love to remind people that Walt Disney himself was a big conservationist. And he did say that conservation is not just a business of a few people, but is a matter that concerns us all.